a catalog, essentially, of the collection at that time. In large part, these were things that had been commissioned works through private interest approved by the city, through originally like the Parks Department when there was no design, art commission, but in the late 19th century by the National Academy of Design and the National Sculpture Society, and then with the consolidation of New York into one city, the establishment of the Art Commission, which is today known as the Design Commission. So if there's a formal monument, a place like Drake Cemetery is different than that process, because these are historic monuments in quotations that predate the existence of the department. They're simply inherited artifacts of historic value. The only one that we have any minor documentation on is the one to Drake himself. We have done surveys, though, in recent years, in 2010, most recently, and in 2003, where we went out and we mapped all the monuments in this cemetery and every other cemetery when we had some additional resources and staffing. And we created a plan, which I'll show you in a moment. And so we have this card, it tells you the very basic things, a monolith made of bronze and marble, etc., etc.
Tiffany made
I'm sure that was based on direct observation. Right. If it went to the commission, if it's a commissioned work of art, for instance, the sculpture of Louis Heinz on Grand Concourse, or a work or the Bronx Victory Memorial in Pelham Bay Park, then the designs would be presented to the Art Commission for their advice and consent before installing it, commissioning it, and so that would create an automatic record, permanent record of who made it, who designed it, what its materials are, and so forth, both with the jurisdictional agency, in this case Parks, as well as the Art Commission. Sometimes they have some pretty detailed records of discussion, but that's largely irrelevant to the case of cemeteries, which sort of fall outside of that process. The Monuments Division, has had a cursory look. The issues relating to materials, though, at cemeteries is completely different than most of our. We wouldn't commission anything, for instance, of sandstone or marble to stand outdoors now, and
right.
wouldn't for the last, because it doesn't. Those kinds of stones react, erode in acid rain. And until we eliminate the sulfur and certain kinds of pollutants in the air, they will continue to do so. And there really isn't much you can do to arrest that. You can slow down that process, as we have recently at the Columbus Monument, made of marble, by applying chemicals called consolidants that bond the structure of the stone. But you can't reverse that or ever bring back this detail. You could retool the monument, or you could replace it with a replica. But there's that's false history to some degree.
So I would imagine sometimes even these, as you said, when you learn about, when you go into do research into the stories behind the memorial and what they told you, like you mentioned, some of them are not as accurate. So sometimes they come down and new ones go up.
Well, right, that's true, and that's why we've moved toward online content more and more, because we can amend things as new information comes to light and so forth. But it is good. We did a historical science project, as I was explaining that. It was a snapshot at a period of time with the best information we could lay our hands on, based on Parks property jurisdictional records, which are held in the Parklands Office, based on consultation with things like the minutes of the Common Council, Board of Aldermen, or City Council, which create profiles of individuals for whom parks are named, because the legislative body needs to know why and who they're naming it for. So read into the record will be a brief biography, and sometimes not so brief, of that person. It can be somebody who had a short lifespan and died serving in war and died young, so they don't have much of a biography. It could be a famous individual like Thomas Jefferson, or Benjamin Franklin, or Joseph Robin Drake, who had a much broader career and influence on a given locality, and everything in between.
Jonathan, can you speak to what's the process for amending, like adding additional information to a sign? Is that...
Well, we don't have the resources to do this endlessly, because while we're blessed with organizations and people like yourselves who have a keen interest, we feel like there are other forums. These are sort of a standard length, a standard style, a standard format. We have to be fairly consistent. If somebody points out a grievous error in one, we will change that. Or if somebody points out an especially interesting and crucial fact that really changes our understanding of that place, we'll change that.